General Milling Corporation, or GMC, is one of the biggest integrated food companies in the Philippines. The company was founded by Don Tirso Uytengsu in 1958 with the incorporation of GMC in the Securities and Exchange Commission. The construction of GMC's first facility, a flour milling plant in Lapu-Lapu City, started in 1959. The first commercially produced flour rolled off its packing lines in 1961. Since the start of operations in 1961, GMC has grown to add a feed mill, a cornstarch line, a hatchery, a snack foods line, an instant noodle line, a yeast plant, a pasta line, a milk line, and a soybean milling plant. GMC also expanded its operations across the Philippines with a corn buying station in the city of Jensan, a feed mill in Cagayan de Oro, an integrated plant in Pasig, a soybean milling plant in Batangas, and a hatchery in Laguna. GMC also operates storage depots across key cities across the country. In 1998, George K. Young Sr. took over as president and chairman of GMC. The tenure of George K. Young Sr. was marked by the stabilization of the business during the turbulent period of the mid-1990s. Mr. George K. Young was setting the foundation for the assumption of the management role of GMC by the next generation. In the year 2000, George U. Young Jr. took on the role of GMC's president. Under the helm of George U. Young, GMC focused on its core business. The organization was trimmed to maximize on its strength in flour, bakery products, and feed milling. At the same time, investments were made in modernizing these core businesses. The flour mills were upgraded. Flour blending machines were installed. A new feed mill was erected in Cagayan de Oro, and the feed mill in Lapu-Lapu was expanded to serve increasing customer demand. Recognizing the critical role of an efficient logistics infrastructure in the future of the business, investments were made in additional grain storage facilities, the redesign of the existing wharf in Cagayan de Oro, and the extension of the wharf in Lapu-Lapu. To better comply with the increasing customer expectations, the company has also streamlined systems to achieve halal certification, GMP compliance, and is now working for HACCP certification with FSSC certification. GMC also invests in its people. There's a continuous effort to conduct employee training for both hard and soft skills. GMC continues to be a key employer in the city of Lapu-Lapu. GMC believes in providing balance for its employees by holding summer outings, sports activities, and Christmas parties. GMC also gives back to the community. Employees engage in regular tree planting activities, support for schools in the community, and barangay outreach activities. General Milling Corporation has been built on the foundation of quality, innovation, teamwork, and the vision of its founder. We are a company that grew from humble beginnings. We are still humble and thankful. We are a company of people with a personal approach to business. Our customers have become our friends, and our employees have become our family. Our past has prepared us for the future. And if our history is an indication of where we are headed, then working together and succeeding together is our destiny.
We are known for passion in quality products. We are Jet Millers.
Hello guys, welcome back. All of these products from GMC are available nationwide. Here in Visayas, these are available in Cebu, in Baking Depot, in New Goodley Mercantile, Mariluz Marketing, Golden Rule in Talisay. Also available in Lapu-Lapu, in Alpha Arcade beside GMC plant, and YNC Mactan. And in Bacolod, they are available in Happy Baker and Baking Buddy. So these recipes, we are using the brand of GMC. Again, these brands are tested with the years of experience. These brands didn't fail me even once in all of my workshops and trainings and demonstrations, products, and all of my products I use GMC brand in terms of flour quality. Again, these, as I've said, these items are very innovative, and also they are tested over time. Okay, so we will make the pastas out of these recipes. Again, out of these ingredients. I mean, first thing we're gonna do today is the gnocchi pasta. As I've said, this is a pasta which is made from potatoes. So if you have extra mashed potatoes, or you can boil potatoes, we create the gnocchi pasta or the knuckle pasta. So out of the potato, eggs, and flour. Okay, so shall we start? So first thing we're gonna do is to gather all of the ingredients over here. Or if you're at home, very basic, you just need a bowl. You need a spatula, a wooden ladle. So these items or these tools are very visible at home. If you're you may be a home baker or just a hobbyist in terms of cooking. So no worries, even beginners can make this pasta. Okay, so you don't need a culinary degree to make this one. Okay, so simple na kayo ni. So first thing we need is, as I've said, we need the potatoes. Okay, so in the recipe, so can we flash the recipe for a while for our viewers to be guided? So we have here mashed potato. So you could do two ways of mashing the potato or making the texture fine. You can grate it, you can mash with a fork, but for me, I prefer using the grater for better texture. So I need 140 grams of this one. So as you see there. So our goal here is to have a fine or texture of the potato, a texture that that would make making the dough much easier. Dali ra siya i-mix, bali. Kay pino naman itong patatas compared of having the potatoes very lumpy and solid. Okay. So next you drop the eggs. You need 1 egg for this recipe. Again, this recipe is good for 1 to 2 servings of the pastas. Okay. So have the egg here. Next to that, we have melted butter. Okay. Some Parmesan cheese for flavor, and a pinch of salt. Okay. So we now have in this bowl the egg, the potato, and some of the seasonings. So next to this one is the flour. So in this recipe, we're using 2 kinds of flour, a semolina flour from GMC and also the Swan brand of GMC. Okay. So next is the all-purpose flour. I'll put half first to have an ease of mixing the items together. Para dili kayo bugat ng imong pag-mix. Especially we're doing it by hand. Okay, question, Chef, can we do it in a machine? Certainly yes. Again, but it's better with the hand because you can press directly or create or give the friction that is needed in the part of the dough compared using the mixer. Okay, so as you see, it's a bit crumbly. What you can do now is use the best tool that you have or your hands. Okay, so you're gonna press. So I'm adding the flour bit by bit to test the texture of the dough. So I'll add more flour in. So what texture are we looking for here? you're checking the dough or kneading the dough, adding flour until the dough creates a resistance or a bounce when you press it. Okay, so that's the general thing that you check if your dough is typically done. Okay, so from this point, I'm kneading the dough into the bowl for me to be able to gather all of the excess flour into the dough. But later, I will take the dough out and knead it into the surface. Okay. Okay, so just take out all the excess dough. Okay, so now I will use the surface. So I need some flour for dusting. So again, this is still from the recipe. No, the flour that we're using here is still part of the recipe. I'm not adding more flour. It's just still part of the recipe. Okay. So as you see, as we knead this one, the dough starts to react, bind together, creates resistance bit by bit. And we don't need the dough to be very, very smooth. Again, we just need to have the texture that it is fine and has resistance when you press it. Okay, you see? This needs a bit more, a little bit more. So rest this a few seconds. So what's the texture of this pasta dough when it's done? So basically, this dough is soft, or this pasta is soft and pillowy. So it means the texture is different from the usual pastas that you see because it tends to be like a 1/2 inch of a round cut. I'll show you later anyway. Say purma niya. So this dough, it's not so smooth. As you see, it still has some lumps. So we're gonna knead it one more time to make sure that we will have a great dough component. So a little bit more, just does a little bit more. So again, the thing to check is the resistance from the dough. It means most of these ingredients are banded together. Okay. Again, so when you knead the dough, you don't use your arms as force. Rather you use the weight of your upper torso into the dough like this. You don't need to use the force from your wrist or your arms. It will be very, very difficult, and you'll end pretty tired at the end of the day, basically. And this dough is just, as I've said, it's good for 1 to 2 servings. Imagine if you're making 1 kilogram or 2 kilograms of this pasta, and you may need some painkillers at the end of the day. So this dough is technically done. So what we'll do after we make this dough, we will have to rest it for at least 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so before we can form this one. So while this is resting, we were gonna proceed to the next pasta dough. So again, this is a potato gnocchi, a pasta made out of potato and flour. So how can we store this one while it's resting? So I have a Ziploc bag over here. If you don't have any Ziploc bag, you could use cling wrap. Works just fine. Or very typical, you can get a bowl, turn the bowl over, and cover the pasta dough. That's it. Okay. So again, can we show the recipe for the semolina gnocchi pasta so we can give them a run through? Okay. Again, we had the mashed potato. So the potato again was boiled, of course, soft. We also had the all-purpose flour, the semolina flour, 1 piece of egg, salt, Parmesan cheese, butter for flavor. Okay, again, rest it for 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is the tomato pappardelle. So again, as I've said, the tomato, the pappardelle in general is a pasta. It's a flat ribbon pasta. It's around 1 inch wide. So compared to other pasta, it's much wider. I feel that not everyone has seen this pasta. If yes, maybe we don't know what it's called. So basically, I will show you today how simple it is to make a pappardelle pasta. Okay? Again, very basic ingredient. You have the semolina flour this time. you have salt, you have pepper, the tomato paste, and the eggs. So no coloring, no aids of color for our recipes for today. All natural, all healthy options for our pastas. Again, these pastas are very, very versatile. You can use a lot of flavor. You can infuse different flavors. You can use pesto, you could use truffle, you could use spinach, or even kamunggay. When you see kamunggay at home, when may kamunggay bala, you get it, you pound it, make it dry, and infuse your pasta. So again, making fresh. What are the advantages of making fresh pastas? It's customized to your liking, to your preference. What to infuse, what flavor to use, the size, the flavor, the color, the what you call this one, the presentation, everything you can customize, and it's on top of that, it's healthy and cost friendly. Okay, so again, we're gonna make the tomato pasta. To start, same thing, we're gonna use some ladle, okay, and a whisk. So I have 5 eggs here. Can we flash on the screen the recipe so our viewers can have a guide? Okay, so you may be thinking, pwede ba niyang gibuhat? We're mixing tomato into a pasta, or is it feasible? Is it delicious? Lami ba kani? Basin og invento lang niya. These recipes are proven and tested. I've worked for different hotels and different establishments and and served this for Michelin star dinners. These recipes we use, these pasta recipes we use, and 100% of the time our customers or our guests have high regards to these pastas. Again, okay, so we're gonna use 5 pieces of eggs. So call this one tomato paste, regardless of the brand, as long as it's concentrated. Okay, you can add pinch of salt and pepper. Okay, there you go. So now you're gonna whisk it a bit just to let it mix together. Okay, there's no particular motion of how to whisk, one way or the other way, doesn't matter. So atong gibuhatan is that para madali og mix ang flour padulong sa atong mixture of egg and tomato. Again, baking, you can do a lot of things with baking. You could twist, you could invent, pwede mo magmug na inyo, the sky is the limit. And this is a perfect example of how you could play or work around different kinds of recipes. Okay, so we're gonna put now the semolina flour. Okay, so other techniques they put the flour in, they put the liquid into the flour. For me, I want to do it the other way. Why? I want to check, I want to add slowly the flour or any kind of flour for me to be able to add it, incorporate slowly, making sure that everything is binded. Now when everything's done, I will ease into the final product. If you put everything in, you have a hard time because the ratio of the flour into parts of the liquid has a huge difference, and you have a hard time mixing this one. So I'd rather add slowly. This works for me every time. Okay, you could use a whisk, you could use a rubber spatula, any tools that you have at home. Pwede rin ninyo buhaton hindi sa balay. Again, maybe mga tana ato mga viewers asa ta makapalit aning semolina flour. Again, they're available in various stores in Cebu. Always use the GMC brand, okay? So, as you see, slowly I'm adding in the semolina flour, making sure that we have a gradual process of mixing the dough. Okay? So until the dough becomes or forms solidly into a ball of dough, that is when we use our hands. As for this moment, we are using the ladle to take away a mess of working, okay? Okay. So, question, Chef, is there a time or guide in terms of how much time do we need to make a dough, or how much time does it require, or pila ka minutes in need ang dough? As long as the dough doesn't offer resistance yet, it means not yet done or far or close to being done. Okay. So now I'm using my hands now to make sure that everything is well mixed. Okay, so slowly, dough is pulling into form. Okay, I think this is the last part of the semolina. So, after making this dough, we're gonna rest it again. Okay, so we have a question for our viewers again. So this FB demo is very interactive. You can drop some questions down below in the comment section, of course, and we will provide some answers. So we have one now. Can we use cake flour in making pasta? It's a very good question. Okay, so the answer will be yes. It's just that there's a difference of the strength in terms of the pasta dough strength after the byproduct is different strengths, because you know the all-purpose flour has more gluten, so basically it has more strength. But again, it's possible. It's just that it breaks a little bit more easily compared to the all-purpose flour. And also, if you use a bread flour, it's too hard. It breaks also. So the best thing to use is the all-purpose flour, specifically from GMC. Okay, so the dough is coming into form, as you see. Now I will knead it using the surface of the table. So, okay. Now, I will add a little bit of semolina just for dusting to make sure the pasta dough doesn't stick into your surface. Again, knead it with the weight of your upper torso going to the dough, not using your wrist or your arms. So again, what do we check here? The texture of the dough, it provides resistance already. Doesn't have to be that smooth. See here? So, see the bounce? It may not be the bounce I'm looking for, but we'll rest it for a few seconds and knead it again. So, we are almost done, but you see from the start of making this pasta, it's very simple. The tools that we have used, ang mga gamit na to, you can see it at home. You can see a ladle, you can see a spatula, you can see a whisk, you can use a bowl. Mabuhat na din nato sa ato mga balay. Okay, and it's very extravagant. You see, when you serve this pasta, you see later when you see what the product of this pasta, you see, wow, we've made this pasta from that dough. So, okay, so again, give it a little bit more kneading. So with this dough forming, okay, you don't have to go too fast. You just feel the dough progressing, developing to the texture that you like. Okay, so this is basically it. So can we have a close-up before I press onto the dough? So as you see, it's not that smooth, but when you press, there's resistance. There's much more resistance compared to the earlier dough or the earlier state of the dough. So this goes for resting. Again, we have to rest the dough after kneading for you to have dough which is very workable. Okay. So again, we can show on the screen the recipes, please, for the tomato pappardelle. Again, the ribbon, the flat pasta. Okay, you had tomato paste. You have eggs, 5 pieces of eggs, salt and pepper, and the semolina flour. Again, You can buy the semolina flour in Baking Depot, New Goodly Mercantile, Madiluz Marketing, Golden Rule here in Cebu, and in Lapu-Lapu, in Alpa Arcade, and YNC Mactan. Okay? So you kind of get an exercise of making a pasta. Now I'm sweating a bit here. Okay? So how do we store these pastas? We could, again, we are using the Ziploc here. But if you don't have Ziploc, a cling wrap or a bowl over the pasta is just as good. Okay? Here you go. So how long should it rest? Compared to the the potato gnocchi pasta, this rests shorter, around 15 to 20 minutes, just to let the dough set, get all the components settled, and we can do the forming. So we've done already 2 pastas. So what's next? Install is we have the black or the squid ink pasta. So what makes it black? Basically the squid ink, the ink from the squid that we extract. In this case, we are using a concentrate. But if you are if you want to use the one which is from fresh squid, they are available from seafood suppliers. If they are offering this extracted squid ink. So again, very basic recipes, very basic techniques that we'll all be doing here. So what you'll need for this recipe again is a bowl, a ladle, a whisk, things that you could see at home, that you probably have at home. So wala ra gyud tay problema in terms of mabuhat ba kanina mo sa balay, kanina mo gitanaw? The answer is yes, of course. So shall we start? So basic ingredients, can we show this on the screen, the recipe? So at least we can have a guide. So for the squid ink, we have a squid ink concentrate. We will use 20 grams of this one. We have 2 pieces of eggs, salt and pepper, olive oil, and again the Swan all-purpose flour from GMC. Okay, so we'll start off by whisking the eggs and the squid ink. So this is where the color comes from. Okay, dili ni siya coloring lang or black gel. This is all natural, extracted from squid ink because this has the aroma of the squid. Compared to colorings, they don't have any of those aroma. Okay, so this is very safe to use, very flavorful, very aromatic. Okay. So where can you buy this one? These are mostly available. The concentrated ones are available in Italian, mostly Italian food suppliers. But if you want the freshly squeezed one, again, you can have them from seafood suppliers here in Cebu. They are packed in little bottles. So what you do with those freshly squeezed, you boil them, you reduce it to half of its amount, and it's ready to use. Okay. So what we have here is the squid ink and the eggs. We'll put a pinch of salt. Okay. Pinch of pepper. Mix. Okay. So again, the technique I'll do is that so the olive oil goes through here. With this technique of mine, I'm adding the flour gradually. Again, the same procedure, the thing that I'm comfortable with. So same thing with you. You're at home, your comforts of your home. You can do anything that you wish to like in terms of creating this pasta. If you want to do it in the kitchen, if you want to do a space that enough space or a marble space, you can do that. You can use a bowl, aluminum, plastic, whatever. There's no standards when you come at home, or when you are at home, and still the byproduct is very, very good or the same, just like what we do in hotels and restaurants. So I'll slightly mix it with a whisk. I'll change into a ladle, or you could use a spatula in this case. Again, when you have the squid ink, it is very messy. Okay, you see, you'll have dark spots on your hands, and that's normal. It's part of the process. It's part of the process when you want to make a very delectable dish. It's part of it. It's sacrifice. Sacrifice your hands. Anyway, you can just wash it. Okay, so just give it a little mix until it turns into a solid dough. By then, you use your hands. Okay. So if you don't want to get messy, you could use the paddle attachment to the mixer. You can use the hook, but again, by hand is the best or the most efficient way of kneading the dough. In terms of, we're talking about pastas, okay? So things are about to get messy a bit here. So I'm kneading the dough, squid ink dough. Here. So the goal here, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to put all of the excess dough into the bowl. So when you're done with the mixing it, you can take out the dough into your surface and knead it. Okay? Okay. You use a little bit of flour. So you see my hands are very dirty now. So we have another question from our viewers. See here, what other flavors can we infuse in pasta doughs? Wow, our viewers are very attentive and throwing out very good questions to me. So what other flavors? Again, as I've said earlier, we've done tomato. Now we have squid ink. We could use pesto. We could use truffle, spinach. Again, if you have kamunggay sa inyong balay, you can use that. Dry it out, infuse to your pasta. So the possibilities are endless in terms of making a fresh pasta, because these flavors you cannot see in supermarkets, department stores. No, you only innovate. Okay, so again, those were just a few examples of Italian-based flavors that could infuse. But again, as I've said, you could use different flavors, and the possibilities are endless. Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, so when the dough is a bit hard, so compared to the three doughs, this dough is has the texture of the most hardest one. Why? Because this dough will make into a spaghetti type pasta. Okay, very thin. So compared to the first two, those are more wider and thicker. But for this one, it's into a spaghetti. So basically, when the dough has resistance already, we can store this one and rest for later. Okay, so we've basically done the three kinds of pasta dough I mean. So we'll give it a bit of rest. While we're doing that, let me just have time to wash my counter. Okay, while we're doing that, let's flash in the recipe. Okay, again, we had squid ink 20 grams. We have 2 pieces of egg. We had salt and pepper, olive oil, and the Swan all-purpose flour. So our recipes are very tested already, and also in your notes you have the procedures, very basic procedures. Okay, so again, as I've told you, making this pasta is a bit messy because again, you're working with squid ink. So let's get a bit of time for us to be able to wash our hands and clean the counters. Okay, so people are watching us from home, from work, or wherever you are from. You can throw us some questions. You can comment your questions down on the comment section for us to be able. You can send us an SMS, direct message. Our people are in standby to receive your question. Okay, and we appreciate that. So basically, again, we have made the three kinds of pastas. Now what we're gonna do is form them into the pastas we wish to have. Okay, so we'll start off with our first pastas that had enough time to rest, which is basically the gnocchi pasta. Okay, the one which is made from potato. So, can we have a little bit of semolina here? A little bit more, please. So, what tools do we need in making this pasta? We use a fork. So again, this kind of pasta is derived from the form of a knuckle. No, it's called gnocchi. It comes from the word knuckle. So we will form that impression of the pasta today. So first, I will take out some portion of the pasta dough, I mean, and work just a little bit of the dough. Okay. So we will roll out the dough. So put a little bit of semolina flour. So whatever flour you use for the pasta, that is the one you put or for dusting. So in this case, you are using both. Okay, so no worries. So you can dust some all-purpose flour or the semolina flour in the process. Okay, so from this form, I will cut the gnocchi. So from this baton-shaped dough, we will cut half of an inch and form them into knuckles. Okay, so we'll give this a little bit of rest and form another one. Okay. A bit. Okay, so before we cut, again, we have to rest it for a while. So we will cut the one we have rolled out first. So using a bench scraper, I will use my hands as a guide of how long will your gnocchi pasta be. So again, half of an inch. So cut. Can you see? Can we have a close up? So here. So the gnocchi pasta you could serve this way. You can make a round version of it. You could use the fork or a gnocchi board to make the knuckle impression. But this way you can serve it directly or cook it this way. Okay. So there are at least 3 to 4 kinds or shapes of the gnocchi pasta. So again, we will make few batches with this dough. Okay. So if ever you don't have a plastic scraper, you can use the knife. So it's still doable. Anything that could cut, or you don't need to have a sharp material to cut this because this is just a dough. Okay, so now we will go to the forming of the gnocchi. So again, as I've told you, you can form into balls. It's just as good. You can form into this, the freshly cut ones, or you can form them into the traditional knuckles. So can you give a closer look onto the forming? So you put the fork like this, straight up. Instead of using the gnocchi board, which is very rare to see here in the Philippines, we will create our own impression with the gnocchi or the knuckle. So from here, on this point, you will press twice and roll. Okay, a little bit more flour for it not to stick. Again, the cut gnocchi, you press again, and you roll. So you see, and you have a closer look. You see, there is a knuckle impression onto the pasta. Can we have a closer look, or just put it closer to the camera? So you see, there is from pressing it into the fork, the knuckle impression is achieved. Okay, makuha na to ang katungkuan. But again, dili kinahanglan o gusto nyo diretso na, it's the same dough. It's just that it has a little bit of finesse when you do these. So this takes a lot of time. So I've done the things earlier in advance. So you see here, and we have a closer look of this one. Okay, so focus on this one. So this is the dough that I've made in advance. So you just have to dust it a bit for it not to stick into each other. Okay, so basically this is the gnocchi pasta, and we will cook this later. So the dough that we have used, we have created this kind of form out of that pasta. Again, you can form it with the round, the simpler one, or the fresh cut one, doesn't matter. What matters is the texture of the dough, the texture of your pasta, and when you serve this one is very, very unique, very traditional Italian pasta. Again, you're cooking at home, but again, you're setting the kind of food that you serve is high-end, 5-star, and your guests will be very, very impressed. Okay, so let's move on to our second pasta, second fresh pasta that we're gonna make. So again, question: how do we store this one? For the gnocchi pasta, you could serve this fresh, but again, if you want to store for a later day, you could freeze it directly. Okay. So next pasta we're gonna do is the tomato pappardelle. So again, can we re-flash on the screen the recipe, so at least they have a guide of what are the components of the dough that they have made earlier. Okay, so again, this pasta, the next one that we're doing is flat ribbon pasta. So it's wider. This time we're gonna use a pasta machine for this one. So, okay, so here's the dough. And as you see, this is the one we have rested for a few minutes, around 20 to 25 minutes, and it's all good right now. It's rested. It's very, very workable. Where is my rubber scraper? Okay, so you're just gonna work with a portion of the dough, because this dough is a lot. This could serve around 6 to 7 persons when done, and also it depends on what size of a pasta maker that you have. So where can you find this pasta maker? You can find them in baking stores, baking supply stores. They have some are automatic, some are manual, so I prefer manual. Different thickness. Again, so you see here, the pasta machine can provide different thickness depending on how what are your preferences or what pasta are you making. Okay, so you manually adjust it. Okay, so for this part, I'll be working with around 200 grams of pasta dough. Again, what you'll need for this pasta dough is a bit of space, because you're gonna be rolling this one into a thin sheet of pasta. So I need a little bit of space. In that sense, also I will cut the dough with a pizza cutter. Other tools that I have is a ruler for me to have a guide on the thickness or the wideness of the dough. So I'm working here again with a small amount of pasta dough. Put a little bit of semolina flour on the surface, dust it. So basically, the reason why I'm dusting it, for it not to stick onto your pasta machine. Okay. So here, so I've put on the attachment. So we're gonna start thick or wide onto the pasta machine, enough for us to insert the pasta dough inside. So basically, this is in the initial rolling of the dough. Okay, there you go. Okay, see here. So question, chef, can we make the pasta without the pasta machine? Yes, you could use the rolling pin, but again, it's thinning it out is a bit of a challenge. That's it. But in terms of can you do it? Of course, yes. Although the challenge is very, very present. Okay, so do not forget to dust your dough every time you put it inside the pasta machine. So we'll go a little bit thinner gradually. So we're going down in terms of the thickness gradually. Okay, so I think more semolina. I'm folding this one for me to be able to get the same wideness of the pasta machine. As of this time, the dough is a bit less of wideness compared to the maximum wideness of the pasta machine. Okay, so I'm putting it back. Okay, there you go. So dust. lower the thickness, feed. So you repeat this process until you reach the thinness setting of your pasta around number 1. I mean the setting of your pasta machine, I mean. Okay, do not forget to dust. I'll trim some excess areas. Now I'm to the thinnest setting of the pasta machine, as you see. So slowly release the pasta from the bottom, then guide it, then release. There you go. Okay, so again dust. So we'll move the pasta forward so you can see what we're gonna do on how to form the pappardelle. So again, these are thick strips of pasta. So using the what you call this one, the pizza cutter and the ruler, we're gonna form the pasta. Again, before cutting the pasta, you give the dough a bit of rest because this will shrink a bit. Gamay ra, shrink na gamay. So cut off the excess. Okay, the standard length of a pasta is around 12 inches. Okay, but again, since we're doing it at home, you're the boss. So you can put 10 inches, you could do 9 inches, but the standard is 9 inches. So from here, we have this dough. After this one, we're gonna cut 1 inch thickness of the dough guided with the ruler. Okay, that way. And using the ruler as a guide, again, since you're the boss, you can use the ruler or not. Okay, and cutting them, the excess you can use again, of course. Again, if ever you have questions, you can comment down below. If you have some difficulties of understanding what I'm doing here, but again, these are very simple recipes. So here, you see, this is what I mean of the thick and wide pasta of the pappardelle. This is the one. Okay, here you go. So if you want to make a lot of batch of this one, you finish the dough. Again, it could make around 6 to 7 portions of pastas, depending on how thin it is. So to show you, we will continue making the pappardelle of the rest of the dough. The excess, do not throw away, huh? You can always reuse them, form them into a bowl, let them rest, and use and store. Okay, there you go. See? This is the pappardelle pasta. So what are we gonna do after forming the pasta? So you can use them right away, straight away into a boiling water with salt and oil, or you can dry them for at least overnight over a hanging stick or whatever technique you can use to let them dry. Let them dry overnight, and when you're about to use them or when you're ready to use them, you can just blanch them for around 2 to 2.5 minutes over boiling water. Okay, so earlier I already have some dried pastas, so let us see how it looks like when it's dried. So basically this is the end product, and you have a closer look into it. Okay, so as you see, as they dry, they turn, the color is darker. See, if you hang them, they are folded into half, but this one is are laid straight into a tray. So this is the form. So when you blanch them, you put them straight away into the bowl of boiling water. Okay, so again, if you have any questions that would help you guide me into making you understand better the process of this pasta, so comment down below. Don't be shy. We are your questions are very, very welcome for us to entertain, and we'll be happy to have your question answered. Okay, so again, can we flash on the screen the tomato pasta? Very basic ingredients: GMC's Swan brand all-purpose flour, eggs, tomato paste, and salt and pepper. Very simple. Okay, so again, we're transitioning into cleaning our counter a little bit more for us to proceed to the next pasta. Okay. Okay. So here we have a question. Oh, this is a nice question. This is related to what I'm doing now. Okay, so question is, how long can we store the fresh pasta? Okay, as I've discussed earlier, again, thank you for your question. As I've discussed earlier, you can put them to the freezer straight away into a Ziploc bag. That's option number one. But what I recommend is let it dry overnight. Okay, wrap it in cling wrap or any sealed containers that it will not crack, break, or whatsoever. Put it in the freezer. You can store them for at least 6 months. Okay, depending on the if your temperature of your freezer, is not fluctuating. If you want to store in the chiller, the dried pasta could last for at least 1 to 2 weeks. If it's fresh into the chiller, around 3 to 4 days. Okay, so I hope you took note of that, and this is very essential as well. So thank you for that wonderful question, and this has helped all of our viewers answer the bugging questions in their mind in terms of storage and keeping, and how long it will take or last, I mean. Okay, so now we have done the two pastas, the gnocchi and the tomato pasta. Next up is we are finally making the squid ink pasta. Okay, so for this pasta, it's a bit more tricky, as I've said, because we are making this into a spaghetti type pasta. Okay. Okay, so again, only work with a little amount of pasta. Okay, dust it a little bit. Okay, so still with the flat attachment of the pasta, we will roll out the pasta. Same thing we've done with the tomato pappardelle, of rolling it out. So always start with the the thick setting. In this case, we are dusting it with all-purpose flour. So we will gonna maximize first the thickness of the wideness of the dough. Okay. You can press and fold the excess or the doughs which are going through different directions. Roll it again. Always dust your dough with all-purpose flour to prevent it from sticking. Okay, so as I've said, you go thinner gradually. Hinahine lang ang pagnaog sa thickness. Okay, if you go through, if you put it directly into a thin setting, from the thickest setting to the thinnest, it's either the machine will eat out your dough or it will break. So little by little, we are conditioning the dough to reach its thinnest state. Okay. Again, now we are on the thinnest setting here. So dust your surface and lay out the pasta here. So since I've worked with a little amount of dough, this is the result. Okay. So what to do next? Let it rest for a while, around 1 to 2 minutes, and dust both of the sides with all-purpose flour. Okay. So while we're doing that, we will work with more amount of dough. Okay, so again, dust, flatten it out a bit to adjust the maximum thickness capacity of your pasta machine. Feed it. Okay, thinner. Okay, so thinner every step of the way. Do not go directly to the thinnest portion or the thinnest setting, because again, it will break your pasta dough. Okay, so we go to the last setting now. Trim a bit. So again, this is best for pasta lovers or very adventurous in terms of the flavors they add to their pastas. So this is the best way to create your own signature pasta. Okay, so we work with the dough which have dried a little bit earlier. Okay, so while I'm doing this, the aroma of the squid ink is present. Okay, that's what you get when you use the natural ingredients. Okay, so again, cut the pasta into 12-inch length. Same thing for this one, 12. So again, it's a bit of an excess, so you can always store it and reuse it. Okay, so now what happens to this one? Let's let it dry a little bit more there, and I'll present to you a separate tool from the pasta machine which allows you to create the spaghetti type pasta. Okay, so this is the attachment that we use. We have attachment for spaghetti, the thinnest one, or a wider one, the fettuccine. Okay, so the fettuccine is around 1/4 inch thickness. So we will attach this one and secure this one into the pasta machine. So same attachment. So here you go. So I'll clean it a little bit. Make sure that there are no excess pasta from the previous production. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we will feed this one into the attachment for the spaghetti. Okay, so I'm turning this a bit for me to be able to put it very smoothly. Okay, if your dough is a bit wide compared to the opening of the pasta machine, you can always cut it. Okay, so here, observe how I do this. So the attachment, the pasta dough goes this way, straight, and the pasta machine, wait a bit. Okay, so the pasta machine like shreds the pasta into your liking to a spaghetti form. So it's a bit crumpled. It's okay. So here you see, you can lift the pasta. You see that the attachment is cutting the pasta dough into the desired finished spaghetti type pasta that we wanted to have. So this one, so from this form you will hang this one for it to dry. Okay, so whatever, you can put this in a shelf, or you can improvise to let it hang and dry. Okay, so this dry at least overnight. See? Okay, so the same thing we'll do for the other batch of dough. So I'll cut it. When it's too dry, it doesn't feed into the pasta attachment. So from there, stretch it out, feed, and you see, lift it, lift, and you went halfway. Then slowly finish the process. Okay, there you go. So you see how easy it is to make the spaghetti pasta, of course with the help of the pasta machine, but you guys can definitely do this at home with the help of the pasta machine. Okay, so it's very rewarding having the dough, the pasta dough from the ink and the flour and the eggs, and turned into this pasta product. It's very rewarding, and this pasta you could use mostly this pasta suits well with seafood based flavors. Okay, of course this is with squid ink, doesn't blend with red meat or poultry. Okay, so we will dry this one, same thing as we were doing here, and I will present to you how it looks like when it is dried for at least overnight. Okay, so here, when it is dried, this is how it looks like. It's very fragile. It breaks quick, but again, drying the pasta gives more bite on it, or the al dente. Okay, you create more al dente with the pasta. It is dried a bit. Okay, although you can still get the al dente with the fresh pasta, but again, it's a little bit different. And also, drying the pasta extends its shelf life. Of course, you're killing all of the bacteria, drying it out, and taking out all the moisture, hence extending its shelf life. So this is how it goes. Okay, so technically, I want to show you the 3 products that we have created. First, the gnocchi pasta. Okay, so can we have a close-up on the screen for the gnocchi pasta? Here we have it. Okay, here it goes. Thank you. So here we have a shape, the knuckle pasta. We have a flat pasta, and also have a spaghetti type pasta resembled by the squid ink pasta. So we have made very interesting and unique pastas, which I knew that by the start of this session didn't learn or didn't know that this is made this way, or this simple, simple that you can make at home. Okay, so what's the next step of our demonstration? We will create this pasta doughs, or the pasta that we have created, into dishes that we can serve at home. But these dishes are generally served, we have served into restaurants and our previous functions, VIP functions. So again, you can recreate this at home. So we'll start off by preparing. So at least can we flash on the screen the first pasta that we're gonna create, for us to have also a transition of preparing for the cooking. So please show the blue cheese and Parmesan gnocchi pasta dish. Okay, so while we prepare the area, so what will be left here is only the gnocchi pasta. Okay, so but again, the techniques or the procedures that we've done earlier are very simple. Rest assured that when you wish to copy them, these are very doable at home. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the blue cheese and Parmesan gnocchi. So when you have the blue cheese, you have a lot of flavor. Okay, some people may not like the blue cheese, but Italian way, this is very flavorful. Some doesn't like the smell of it, but in terms of the taste, it has most of the power. It is considered the most powerful flavored cheese with the rest of the cheese that is available. Okay, so we also have the Parmesan cheese, providing them some saltiness and flavor. We also have the cooking cream, sugar, salt and pepper, and the pasta gnocchi that we have created. So already here I have some water that I have boiled earlier. So this is very essential for us in terms of creating the recipe. So I have here also the gnocchi pasta that I have created earlier. So we'll start off very simple recipe. We'll just need a pan, heat it up. So what goes in first is the cream and the blue cheese. So we're just gonna soften the blue cheese and cream. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now here we have the blue cheese. Can we have a little bit of close-up on this one? Okay, so you have also the cream, Parmesan cheese, salt, and sugar. So sugar, in most cases in pasta dishes, especially working with tomato sauces, this balances everything. The sugar balances the sourness from the tomato, sourness from the cheese. On some occasions, or the saltiness, it creates balance. So depending on how you use it, is the result of your dish. Okay, so start off by putting a little bit amount of the cream. Heat this up a bit and mash into the pan the blue cheese, okay? Then we have more water here. Okay, so just press onto the pan the cheese for it to be mixed thoroughly to the cream. Okay. While slowly getting mixed, that is when you add the rest of the cream. Okay. Okay, we'll add more water into our bowl. Okay. So now again, I'll add in the rest of the cream. Make sure it's well blended. Have some salt for seasoning, sugar, and pepper. Okay. So what we're gonna do is just heat up a bit the mixture of the cream cheese, the blue cheese and the cream, making it conditioned before we add in the pasta. So we stop over there. We don't want to overcook the cream. What we do now is that we blanch the pasta, the gnocchi pasta that I've created earlier. Okay, so just gonna break down into pieces and drop it into the water. You could use a colander if you wish to use it. So around 160 grams of the gnocchi into the pasta or the boiling water. We will add oil and salt. Okay. For Italian cooking, we always add this. So why do we add salt and oil into the boiling water of pasta while blanching? So basically, the salt provides flavor. So the saltiness when you are cooking the pasta, the water saltiness goes into the pasta, creating flavor for the pasta compared to using plain water. The oil prevents the pasta from sticking together. So these are the basic questions and the reason why we add these components onto boiling water when blanching the pasta. Okay, so how long does it take to blanch the pasta? For the gnocchi, you could boil them for 2 to 3 minutes depending on how thick you have made them. Okay, now we have a question. What other sauces go well with the gnocchi pasta? Okay, very good. For this one, we are using the cream pasta. But again, the gnocchi is very versatile. You could use them for pesto based, tomato sauce based. For this one, cream based, seafood based. You could pair them with shrimp, fish, poultry, meat. This is very, very versatile. You could basically pair it with different kind of sauces and different kinds of proteins. Okay? So I hope I have answered your question. So for beginners, if you want to have a guide on how many minutes to cook your pasta, you could use a timer. You could use your cell phones, your mobile phones as timers for you to have a guide on how much time you're already consuming in terms of boiling the pasta. But in this case, you could check, you could use the timer. But when you see the gnocchi pasta floating slowly by slowly, little by little, it means that it has created an impression of receiving or the heat penetrating into the pasta. Okay? Can I have more cream, please? Okay. So, you see the pasta boils slowly. The water together with the pasta. Okay. I'll just add a little bit of cream just to loosen up everything. Okay, so while we're doing that, I'm gonna turn on the heat again. Just enough that the pasta will be ready. In this case, I will need a bowl and strain the pasta out of the water. So basically, I have 1 minute and 30 seconds left on my timer. So while we're doing that, we're heating the sauce over to this side. For high production pasta restaurants, what we do is we do the pasta sauce in advance, okay? And we blanch the pasta dough or the fresh pasta a la minute or the last minute. So at least we will be able to cater to more guests. We have an effective way of service. Our guests will not be waiting too long for our pastas. Again, I've worked for hotels and restaurants which people line up for their pasta. Okay, for our pasta, because they are known for the Italian authentic flavors and all of the ingredients are Italian style or Italian influence. We're not putting a what you call this one, a shortcut in terms of creating these pastas, because these pastas are of rich origin. Again, in terms of the flour, we always use the GMC brand. Okay, the all-purpose flour, the Swan brand. Okay, so when your pasta sauce is heating up, because it is loosened by the heat, as you see here, try to loosen up. But when it's cold, it is very thick. Okay, so I have 30 seconds more on my timer. 20. So by that time, I'll be ready to take off the gnocchi pasta. Okay, so question, chef, after we blanch the pasta, if we store them, how do we lower down the temperature if you want to store them? Okay, so you lower down the temperature by putting it into running water, putting it through running water for around 2 to 3 minutes. By that way, the pasta's temperature will cool down, stopping the residual heat or the carryover heat that would make your pasta overcooked. Again, when you cook pasta, you always want to have the al dente bite on it, okay? Okay, I will have to add a little bit more. 10 more seconds. Okay. So when you're at home, can definitely prepare this pasta or store the gnocchi pasta ahead. And when you want to impress your family or your friends, you can just pop it out of the freezer, defrost it, blanch it, and serve it together with this cream-based sauce. Okay? So when it's done, I'll just take out the colander. So approximately, I am working with around 160 grams of fresh pasta. That's enough for one serving. A little bit buffer. Okay, so how does it look like when it's blanched? Here, you see the knuckle effect on the pasta. As I've told you earlier, you see the pasta rolled into the fork creates the impression or the traditional knuckle form. Okay, so after here, we will put the pasta, the fresh pasta, into the pan. Okay, we have seasoned already the pan, so when it's loosened up, the sauce is loosened up, you can mix it directly into the sauce. So around 30 seconds just to coat the pasta with the sauce. You mix this one. Okay, so you see it's very creamy, it's very flavorful with the flavors that you expect here is the flavor from the blue cheese and the parmesan, which we will add here. Okay, so 30 seconds just to coat and cook through the gnocchi pasta. Okay, so while that's simmering, which means over low heat, we will prepare our plate. So you have a very nice plate over here, pasta plate. Okay, so when the sauce coats its pasta, then your dish is basically done. So we have to test or taste it to confirm. Of course, The flavor of the blue cheese paired with the Parmesan cheese, balanced with the sugar, it's all good and it's all perfect. So next thing we have to do is to serve this into our plate. Okay. For the garnish, I'd like some more Parmesan cheese. And add some greens from the parsley. So I'll need a bread toast over here to complete. Here you go, freshly chopped parsley, and paired with the, if you remember the breads that we have made from the previous session, these are the baguettes turned into toast. So put this on the side, and a 5-star recipe is created from the pasta, the bread, and everything else that we have created earlier. Okay, so have a close look. Okay, so it is best served hot, of course, because when the cream thickens, the texture of the cream, it may be too fluffy and too thick for you to savor. Okay. Okay, so if you have questions, if you have some things to clarify in terms of our first recipe, so go down in the comment section, write down or type down your questions, and we'll be very happy to answer them. So first thing done, so we will proceed to the next dish, which we have the mascarpone cream and tomato pappardelle pasta. Okay, so let's take this out. Okay, here we go. I have things prepared. So can we have a flash on the screen? We have a flash on the screen, the recipe. We have the chicken breast, which is the main protein of our dish. For the second dish, we have the oregano, thyme, and basil for marination of the chicken, which the protein of our pasta. We also have the button mushroom. We have tomato sauce. This is a tomato peel, fresh peeled tomato sauce. We have the cream, all-purpose cream. We have mascarpone cheese. It's an Italian cheese which has a lot of flavor and very subtle in taste. We have salt and pepper, Parmesan, and the basil for garnishing, and of course our fresh pasta, or in this case we will use the dried up pasta, pappardelle, tomato pappardelle. Okay, so we will start by seasoning the chicken with salt, the Italian herbs, the oregano, thyme, and basil. Okay, so you just give it a rub. Put some olive oil also into the pan, just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so I will need a tong over here for me to be able to cook this well. So you heat the pan here. What we'll do is we will sear on the sides of the chicken, brown it. So when you say sear, create a brown crust from the outside, but sealing all of the juices from the inside. Okay, that's our goal. So what you'll need to have is a very hot pan. Okay, so what else do you need as we go through? We have onions. So again, we have the basil, mushrooms, tomato sauce, the cream cheese, the mascarpone cheese, and the all-purpose cream. So the pan is hot. So when you hear the sizzle, it's basically creating the crust of the chicken, to ensuring that the juices is sealed inside, making sure when we consume the chicken, it's not dry, it's not soggy. Okay, Okay, so while we're doing that, we're gonna boil ahead of time the pasta. So we're doing two things at the same time. So we're blanching the pasta while we are creating or cooking or searing out the chicken. So one nice look of a sear here is, can we have a closer look, is that the chicken from the outside is a bit brown. Oh, it's brown. It means it has a crust and all of these juices are just inside. Okay. Okay. So again, you cannot create the sear with a low temperature or the low heat for the pan. You have to start high. When you have the crust already, that is when you go low. Okay? So while I'm boiling the pasta, so for one portion of pasta, one serving of pasta is around 60 to 80 grams of dried pasta. So when it's cooked, it volumes up, doubles its size to around 150 to 160 grams. Enough for one single serving of pasta. Okay, so at least a guide for you when in terms of how much you are blanching, how much will you create for this kind of group, a big group, a small group of 2, 3, or 4, or whatsoever. Okay. So for me, when I check protein, I do not check by its look. I check by its texture. When I press it, if there's resistance, it means the heat has entered into the interior parts of the protein. It may be steak, it may be pork, in this case it's a chicken. The resistance means the heat is inside of the meat. Okay? So just press it lightly. Do not press it like you mean it. Okay? So on a separate bowl, I would set aside, or just set aside the chicken. Do not overcook it, because again, you have made sure all throughout the process that it is very well balanced in terms of the juiciness. Do not overcook it. Okay, so the small portion goes in or goes out first. The thick portion goes out last. Okay. So basically, this is the topping for the pasta, the protein. So what we're gonna do next is to make the sauce. Blanch the pasta afterwards. Okay, there you go. So I'm gonna lower the heat now. Change pan. Okay, so now the water is boiling, just enough to time also the cooking of the pasta. So I'm gonna start off cooking the sauce by some olive oil. You can use diced onions, or you can use sliced onions if you wish to. The sliced onions doesn't matter. I want more onions on this dish, so okay, so drop it there. So I'm not cooking the onions with the high heat for it not to burn. Just gradually I'm increasing the heat over here. So what I'll add next are the mushrooms. I'll chop it more fine. Okay, then drop it. So the mushroom provides a little bit of a distinct aroma and flavor that is very, very good in terms of binding the flavors from the what you call this one, the tomato sauce and the cream. Again, when you make pastas, you create the sauce first and the blanched pasta afterwards. But if you are well skilled, you can do the same thing at once. Okay. So when the onions a bit caramelized and start to be translucent, you can add, before that you will lower the heat and you add the tomato sauce. These are freshly squeezed tomatoes. They're different from the canned one because these has more texture, more flavor, and more freshness. Okay, that's the difference basically. So increase the heat, put in the fresh cream. Okay. Next to that is the mascarpone cream. This is where all of the creaminess and texture will come from. At first, it tends to lump up, especially when it's cold. But when the heat goes into it, you could feel that the dish is coming together. Okay, lower the heat. Add some herbs, freshly picked basil. Just squeeze them into the, tear them apart freshly into the dish. So you can smell the aroma of the basil, very distinct aroma. Then you have to stop on the, or cut the heat off the pan. Now we're gonna blanch our pasta. Okay. So this is approximately 60 to 80 grams. The water is boiling, so drop it. Give it some time, around 2.5 minutes as well. Start. Then you slowly ease the pasta into the bowl of hot water. Slowly, not break it. So as soon as the bottom of the bowl touches the pasta, it softens, it will fit. Do not force it and break it, okay? If you need more oil, just to make sure that it won't stick, you can add more salt in the process, of course. So how long do we blanch this one? Around 2 to 3 minutes. Again, depending on how thick you have made your pasta. So while I am blanching this pasta from the side, I will season my sauce. So a little bit of Parmesan cheese, salt. As you see, my cooking here doesn't involve any MSG, any artificial flavoring. We only depend on cheese, in this case Parmesan, and the, what you call this one, mascarpone cheese, salt, pepper, and some herbs. That's it. No artificial seasonings. Okay, so let's get rid of these things while they're not of use yet. Okay. So I have 1.5 minutes on my clock. So I'm picking out some fresh basil for garnish here. See what is best for my dish. Okay. So slowly move from side to side your pasta. Just make sure that it won't break as you move it. Okay. So while we're doing that, I'm gonna fillet my chicken, prepare it for the topping. Okay. Okay. So here we have a question. Can we make the squid ink pasta into a pappardelle pasta? Yes. The answer would be yes. Of course, these pastas are of flavor only. In terms of shape, of how you want to shape it, how long or how short, in terms of the type of pasta, again, it's up to you. You can make the gnocchi plain pasta, or you can take out the tomato from this recipe and make it into plain pasta, or in that case, you can make the pappardelle recipe into squid ink, vice versa. You can do it. The possibilities again are endless in terms of making the fresh pasta. So again, the 3 minutes has elapsed. So I'm gonna check my pasta over here if it's cooked. So I think it needs around 30 minutes. 30 seconds more. I'm sorry. Okay, 30 seconds more before we add into the pasta or to the pasta sauce. Again, while we're doing that, we're gonna prepare again our pasta plate. Check on the seasoning of our pasta sauce. That's good. So I am a fan of Parmesan cheese, so I want to put more. Okay. As Excuse me. Okay, so again, we will check on our pasta. Okay, so this should be good. So you'll need a colander to drain all of the excess water from the pasta. Scoop it very, very slowly. Make sure that it doesn't break. Okay, there you go. Okay, good. So now, just drain for a few seconds the pasta. Make sure there's no water going into your dish. Okay, here you go. So, can we have a flash on the screen how the pasta looks like when it's technically blanched? Again, when it's dry, the color becomes brighter. When it's cooked, it turns out more even brighter. Okay, you see there. So now, what we're gonna do next? We're gonna mix the pasta into the pasta sauce. Setting. Okay. Slowly, I'm gonna add the pasta and let it coat for around 30 seconds to 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Slowly, you want to break the pasta. Okay. So the chicken, the toppings are prepared already. So simmer. So when you say simmer, it is cooked basically in very low heat, just enough to coat the pasta with the sauce, not to overcook it. Okay. So I am tossing the pasta just to make sure that I do not give too much exhaustion or movement to the center of the pasta, causing the pasta to break. Because you want your strands of the pasta to be intact. Okay? So how do you check if the pasta is al dente? Of course, I want to let you see it. You take a little bit of portion of the pasta. If there's a bite on it, there's a certain firmness in the outside, but soft in the outside, the pasta is al dente. Categorized as al dente. Soft from the outside, firm from the inside. Okay? So, after coating this one, here you see, the dish is already, you can see it's binded as one. There's no ingredient that stands out from everything else. So, technically it's ready for plating. So, carefully scoop out your tomato pappardelle. Don't worry about the splashes. You can always wipe them. Slowly, slowly. Okay. Do not forget the sauce, of course. See, the colors are very appetizing. Okay. So, I'm gonna wipe the sides of the plate first. I'm gonna sprinkle some Parmesan cheese. Okay. And I want to chop some basil, fresh basil. Okay, sprinkle on top. Okay, and lastly, the broiled chicken that we have cooked earlier goes on top of the dish. A little bit more Parmesan cheese always makes it better. Again, our toast always pairs with the pasta. Can we have some more toast, please? Bread toast. Okay, one piece. Okay. So here we go. So our mascarpone cream, tomato pappardelle with toasted bread on the side. Okay. So I hope we were able to catch up with the dish. Very simple, very basic ingredients, things you can do at home. So if you have questions, always ask us through the comment section. so at least we could be able to guide you. Okay, so first and second part is done. So basically we go through this third part, which is the squid ink pasta. So it's a bit tricky, but it's very among the three pastas we will create today. This is the most extravagant one. Okay. Okay, let's go. So first thing, can we flash on the screen? Yes, spaghetti al nero. Okay, we have onion dice, or you can use slice, whatever the case may be. Garlic chopped, fresh basil. For the seafood, we have cream dory, we have peeled shrimp, we have clams, we have clam stock. We also have salt and pepper, Parmesan cheese, doesn't get out of the party, the squid ink pasta that we created, and some diced tomatoes. Okay, so let's give it a start. So it's first thing we'll do is heat a pan. Same thing, olive oil, some sliced onions, okay, put it in, and garlic. Okay, again, I don't want to start with the pan too hot. Gradually, the heat will arise since we're using a non-stick pan, so no problem. Okay, so we're gonna boil also our what you call this one, our hot water, preparing it for the pasta. So again, this kind of pasta, the black pasta, goes very well with seafood because again, the smell of the squid ink only goes well with seafood. So I would not recommend being too creative. Creative is good, but do not be too creative, adding some other poultry, maybe red meat. I suggest you stick with the seafood. Okay, it's turned translucent. We can add shrimp, the fish, and the squid into the. Okay, turn the high. So now I'm putting some Lean Perrins, 1 tablespoon, to create flavor. Add some pepper and salt. Toss it. Okay, so the delicate part of cooking seafood is that when they are overcooked, they tend to be hard and difficult in terms of chewing, in terms of to consider the squid. The shrimp, if it's overcooked, it tends to be mushy and very hard. Also for the cream dory, it's very delicate seafood. So what we'll do, after slightly sauteing the seafood, after I add this basil, of course you want to counter the seafood with something that's aromatic. Okay. Then I'm gonna take out the what you call this one, some of the seafood, for it not to be overcooked. Okay, so basically this is a technique wherein we just allow the rest of the ingredients to cook and take away for safety of overcooking the rest of the seafood. Okay, you want it fresh, you want it juicy, you want it tender. Okay, so here you go. So after that, as you see here, I have some clam stock. So how do you make a clam stock? You just get fresh clams, get water, boil it for at least 1.5 hours, then you'll get this kind of consistency and aroma from the stock. So add a 1/2 cup of this one. Okay. So I'll turn my attention on boiling the pasta. For this spaghetti pasta, as you see here, it's a bit thin. Of course, it will take lesser time to cook compared to the thicker pastas that we had earlier. Okay, so I will just give it around 1.5 minutes to cook. These are very delicate. Okay. Add more ingredients on this one. Okay, so same thing. We will be guided with a timer. So 1.5 minutes. So just slowly and carefully move the pasta from side to side. So again, this pasta cooks faster compared to the other pastas that we have created earlier. While we're doing that, I'm going to prepare my plate. Have some fresh parsley. Okay. So 30 seconds on the clock. Have to get this with a. So use a finer strainer, not the colander, to make sure that everything is scooped out. So while I'm blanching this one, all the flavor comes out, all the aroma comes out from the squid ink. Basically, that's it. I want to add a little bit more salt into my boiling water. So 3 seconds, 2 and 1. So we'll check. So basically, it needs more, a little bit more. Around 10 seconds more. So again, cooking is about your feel. It's not about the time. It's about how your item reacts. For this, in this demonstration, it's the pasta. It's basically how the pasta reacts. But again, the time is a guide. You can check after 1.5 minutes. If it needs more, you can certainly add more. Okay. Okay. So I'll take out the pasta from the. Okay, so I'll take out the, and we have a quick sight of the pasta when it has been cooked. Again, also same thing for the other pasta that we have made. When it's cooked, it turns to be more dark. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the pasta into the sauce. So our sauce again is based from clam stock. Okay, so all of the ingredients that they have saved earlier, we have put it back again, adding also the tomato, diced tomato. Here you go. So final 1 minute of cooking for the pasta, just to let it coat with the sauce. Do not overcook the pasta. Again, this is a spaghetti type pasta. You want to retain all of the tenderness and the al dente feel of the pasta. Okay. So we are tossing it not just to give flair. It's because I am avoiding the pasta of being overworked and breaking it into pieces. I'm gonna put in some parsley. Okay, toss it around 30 minutes just to coat it, and we're ready to plate. Okay, take out this one. Okay, so using a big fork, I'm gonna plate my pasta into this ceramic plate. So scoop out. You see, the pasta is not broken into pieces. It's straight, it's long, and it's very cooked well, not making it too soft, too mushy, or whatsoever. So we're gonna arrange it like that. Take out the rest of the pasta. Make sure your pasta is firm. Okay, that's the key to this one. Okay, and for the seafood, we're gonna put on top. Okay, so the seafood and everything else gives contrast to the black pasta, as you see. Creates the party. Use some tongs if you want to be particular. Okay, so let's make it a feast. Put everything in. Tomatoes as well gives the red component to the plate. Okay, so what's next is the garnish. So let's wipe off the excess splashes from the pan. Make sure everything's clean. Okay. Again, put some parsley on it. Here. Parmesan cheese. Dash of olive oil. So just to create a bit of and lastly, the toasted bread that we created from the first session. So here, I'd like to present spaghetti al nero out of the homemade pasta out of squid ink. Okay, can we have the flash on the screen? Or a closer look, I mean. Okay, so we have done the gnocchi pasta, we have made cordeli pasta, we have just the very, very elegant and unique black squid ink pasta. So to recap what we have done today, basically I've guided you in these recipes, the recipes that we have served for a lot of occasions, proven and tested recipes that I use for VIPs, VIP dinners, Michelin star chef collaborations, my own cafe. I serve these kinds of pastas. So again, there's no fool in these kinds of recipes. Also, with the guide of the products of GMC, which are very, very fantastic, we were able to create very strong and composed pastas. No breakage of pasta we have seen, even for the gnocchi pasta that we have made fresh today, and also for the other pastas. So I wish that you have enjoyed the time that they have spent here creating all of these pastas. It was my pleasure. It is my pleasure to be able to share to you all of these ingredients, all of these flavors, distinct Italian flavors, to your from my table to your home. So basically, these are 5-star recipes that I'm sharing to you, and I hope you do this and impress the people at your home. Thank you. And again, we will see you for the next chapter of our demonstration. Part 3 will be about dessert. I'll be creating the ultimate chocolate dessert. One dessert, but it is composed of 4 to 5 components. Very, very simple dessert, but it's all finesse and grace. Again, I would like to thank all of our viewers from the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao for tuning up with us. The things that are, again, I would like to apologize for the slight delay due to technical issues. But again, it's a very, very pleasing, very, very wonderful day. And I thank you all for staying with us and viewing all of these recipes.